Hello, loves, hello. Chapter 9, April 1st, 2026. Right at 7:57 p.m. Totally, and we're still under construction. And I left off at Carrie Ann, eh? Yes, I did. So 2010 to however far we can get in an hour or so. Okay. And we're going to go with the flow. Because not everybody's going to share my perspective, but this is my truth and my story. Nobody else's. But it's an important story because I don't want anybody else to suffer as I have. Totally. Or children. Absolutely. So Carrie Ann was born on 12/1/10, right about midnight. Right after midnight, and I got to cut her little cord. Yeah, and she was perfect. Beautiful. Absolutely. And I had gotten Kelly set up with, a crib and all the supplies for Carrie Ann, and she was going to nursing school and, getting her life together. And, forgive me. And we helped set her up there. It's beautiful, what's left of the sunset. I'm waiting for the full pink flower moon to come up. Yep, any minute now. And so she was beautiful, and I cut her cord, and before she went home, CYFD had came to make sure that she had a safe place where she was going. And, they checked everybody out that was living at the apartment. There was Ashley Tucker and Patricia, his wife, and Crystal, who was pregnant, about ready to have a baby, and Kelly. And, I'd set up with the diapers and the formula and the bottles and the scrubbers and the clothes and play. Well, Kelly got the playpen and some other clothes, and I got her a crib and took it up there 3 flights up and put that thing together. And made sure that Carrie Ann was going to be okay, because we had our hands full at home with Dixie, see. And Dixie had a whole lot of issues in the 9 months that we were waiting, for Carrie Ann to be born. And little Dixie, poor thing, she had a lot of trouble sleeping through the night, a lot of nightmares. And she was even, at one point, she got a knife off the counter behind me and was stabbing her teddy bear. And I'm like, wow, this is, and she would chase my animals, my chihuahuas, around and kind of torment them. I thought, this isn't normal, man. So I got her into therapy through the children's workshop and Janelle and Team Builders. And Team Builders was a really big help. They were a great help. And we were getting along, and my surgery was done, thank goodness. And I was, doing my thing with Dixie and Mike, and taking Dixie to therapy. And she was a full-time job just by herself. She was only 2 years old. And she had a lot of issues and needed a lot of help too, and we did that. And I went down in 2 weeks to check on Carrie Ann, right about Christmas, man. And Kelly I was waiting for her to come home, and she came in from the buses, and she had Carrie Ann in the car seat I had got her with a winter cover, but she only had Carrie Ann in a little dress. She didn't have any pants or socks, and poor Carrie Ann was freezing. And I guess Kelly was determined to go back to work. And so I didn't support that, but she said she had Ashley Tucker and Patricia take care of her. And so sorry about that. So when I went to check on her, and there's Batty Kiki. Hello, baby. She's about to have babies too. But anyway, so there's Buzz. And so when I went down to check on her, I told Kelly, you got to take better care of her. And the next time I went to check on her, it was after Christmas. It was right about New Year's, 2 weeks later. And I noticed something was wrong with her immediately. she was very lethargic, and she was throwing up a lot, and she really didn't have a light response. You know, like when you turn a light on in a dark room and you kind of flinch, she didn't have that. And I said, what is wrong with this baby? There's something wrong with this baby. And Crystal, Kelly's roommate, comes out, the one who was pregnant, and said, oh yeah, I saw Ashley Tucker shaking her and hitting her badly. And I said, why didn't you call Santa Fe PD? And she said, well, she seemed all right to me. And I'm like, well, there's obviously something really wrong with this baby. And I called the Santa Fe PD, and they come and investigated, but they didn't do a triple I on Ashley Tucker. They would have found out that he was wanted in Louisiana for child abuse. They said they couldn't afford it or something through CYFD, I'm not sure. But they should have. It could have been prevented. Anyway, so we took her right away to Chris's St. Vincent's. And yeah, there was obviously something wrong with poor Carrie Annie. And I got all of her stuff in my van, and I took her up to Raton to take care of her. There were no charges ever filed on anybody about it, but it happened. And they referred me to the CART team in Albuquerque to have Carrie Ann evaluated, which I did. I took her down on my birthday, and CYFD took Carrie Ann into custody temporarily in Santa Fe. And, oh God, it was awful because of the abuse. And that was on Kelly, not me. So Kelly and I went through CYFD and said, hey, she can come up to Raton with her sister, and well, not come up, but stay there in Raton, and we could take her back home. And CYFD agreed with me and Kelly. And so I took Carrie Ann home, and we started therapy immediately, obviously. And I took her to, I believe his name was Dr. Anderson or Dr. Smith in Albuquerque, ophthalmology. And he found paling of the optic nerves. And that only happens with shaken baby syndrome. And then they did swallow studies on poor Carrie Ann because she wouldn't stop throwing up, poor baby. She was going through like 10 receiving blankets a day. And it took me like forever to get her to 20 pounds. But we did it. 24-hour rounds. At 48, I had 2 babies. It was a lot to take. And I had help through the children's workshop and team builders helping me, you know, take care of the girls. I would get some respite through Marjorie Zamora. And she saw, you know, the kids had issues. Oh, hey, check that out. There she is. There's the moon. I wasn't sure where she was going to come up, but there she is. She came up behind me. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Wow. Wow. I got to move up so I can get that side of it. Oh, wow. Look at that. Wow. 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 Yeah, I gotta move my chair up a little bit. Forgive me while I move. Yeah. Because this is me being authentic and true about my story. Not to hurt anybody, just to get the truth out about it. Totally. And anyway, so, hello. Hello, Batty baby. Yeah, that's a precious baby. She's saying, hello, everybody. Hello. Hello. Mama knows what she's talking about. Mommy loves her babies. Yeah, there it is, right there. Oh, wow. Yeah. Gotta get that in. Ah, yeah. I wish the pole wasn't in the way, but that's okay. It's a new way, a new way, a new way today. And I'm telling my story my way. My truth. And everybody is entitled to it. No one better than the other. This is the truth from my perspective, and others might differ. And that's okay. Let them check the facts for themselves, really. So we had Loretta with the Santa Fe School for the Blind coming every couple weeks to give therapy to Carrie Annie. And she was getting help through the children's workshop. And Sherry Trevino, the DA there in Raton, was saying that I had made all this stuff up in one of Carlos Cordova's hearings. That all this stuff was fake about Carrie Ann, and that I lied about it. And I had to question, hey, well then if I'm lying, then the doctors must be lying, and the therapists must be lying, and the Santa Fe School for the Blind must be lying. Right? Yeah, exactly. And that wasn't the case. Because I had nothing to lie about, nothing to gain. So we were doing therapy, going to Albuquerque all the time to the eye doctor, or to the CART team, or to Las Vegas to help Carrie Annie. And it was a 24/7 job with her and Dixie. And in retrospect, I really wish I hadn't done it. I really do. I regret adopting them to give them to Mike Ledoux. If I had only had a clue. And then when Carrie Ann was about 3 years old, and the strangest things happened with Carrie Ann. Like when she was 2 or 3, she was telling me, I remember my blue box, and I remember the 50 balloons. And I'm like, where is she getting this from? And I believe it was my son Jacob, because Jacob was buried in a blue box, and he wore his Mickey Mouse shoes, and he had a Mickey Mouse with him. And there were 50 balloons that we let off the day we put my son Jacob Jeffrey Bowers to rest. And there was no way Carrie Ann could have known this. And then one day, my son Lucas and I are eating pizza, sitting there with Carrie Ann, and all of a sudden Carrie Ann says, my heart's all better now. Your heart? Well, there's nothing ever wrong with your heart. And she was only like 3. Oh yeah, my heart's all better now. Well, Jacob had open heart surgery. So it was quite an interesting synchronicity. And so I kind of identified that my son Jacob, in a way, was in there with my Carrie Ann. It's really trippy. And about 3 years old was when Carrie Ann could finally really start seeing again. And it scared her so bad. It did. But when she was about, I guess, 6 months old, I think it was right after her vaccination, and I had her in Santa Fe, and all of a sudden, she starts screaming this high pitch. Oh, let me get a better view of this. Wow. She started screaming this high pitch. I can't wait till that rises more. Over that pole, please. Yeah, right up there. Thank you. And this scream could crack glass. I kid you not. And I wish that pole wasn't in the way. I guess I could move her over again. Let me move a little more. Sorry to interrupt the story once again, but I want to get a better view of this moon if I can. Yeah, like right there. So, yeah, there we go. Forgive me for moving again. Yeah, just keep moving, keep breathing. Yeah, because it's an incredible story, really. The truth of it, totally. Oh, now I got two things in the way. Oh, heavenly. I'm trying with the life of me, because this is the pink moon and the golden age of Aquarius. I want to do this justice. And yeah, we're all going to Skin and Bones someday. And we all go away. We have to do it authentically. Because we never know when we don't have another day, do we? No. So I'll sit on my bumper. That's probably better. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're getting that full moon. There's a truck going by. Forgive it, please. And we got the wires in the way, but this is magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Look at that. So, yeah. And Carrie Ann finally saw at 3. But this scream that she had at 6 months old, we didn't know what was wrong with her. And she would go into these, what I would call them meltdowns, like temper tantrums where she's screaming so loud. She could break glass, right? Wow. And the neurologist couldn't tell me or explain what was wrong. I wasn't sure what was going on, but it was happening. And she continued to get, services through Loretta with Santa Fe School for the Blind. And yeah, she had paling of the optic nerves. And we got them to heal, obviously, because Carrie could see finally. And I was taking her to therapy with team builders. And then a lot of things happened. Dixie would be really mean to Carrie Ann. She would get on top of Carrie Ann as a baby and like rack her legs and hit Carrie Ann, and I had to keep Dixie off of her. I remember. It was awful. And I constantly had to watch her. And Dixie had a lot of problems with behavior. A lot. I would go for doctor's appointments in Santa Fe, and I would come back and my office would just be tore up. But then I had to turn my office into the girls' room. And it just wasn't working. It was so rough. Rough and stuff. And that moon is just incredible, loves. Wow. And I did the best I could with my own disability, with AIDS, HIV, gastric bypass. I was still recovering, trying to take care of the babies, and Michael Rubin was doing his thing with the park. West Meadows Mobile Home Park there in Raton, 1249 Brilliant Street, number 1. And he was doing stuff I had no idea. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have put the puzzle pieces together, but I didn't know. Anyhow, I got to get my Joe. This is beautiful. And I'm telling my story. See, they don't want me to tell these things. I don't know why they don't want my truth. I haven't got to the Raton Judiciary. That's another story. And, so I was getting respite with Marjorie Zamora on the weekends. Lucas did respite with the girls too, so I could get a break. I needed a break from those two. Totally. And that moon is so beautiful. Look at that. It's the night for this because I said I was going to tell my truth, and I'm going to. So thank you for whoever's listening, for whatever it can do. My heart is authentic, and I pray for my children in the heavenly light to be with them tonight and every night. Actually, I love them. And I gave up everything for them. And I put them before me, as usual. That's okay. They were worthy. I just wish Michael Rubin would have felt the same way. So, then in 2015, 5 years later, we lost our home because of our nephew Justin Ledoux, who lives in Albuquerque, and we got the royal screw. And he didn't even tell us. We were trying to help him with the park, and he just refinanced the whole thing, took all the money, and left us nothing, not even a home. So we found our home in Maxwell by the grace of God Almighty. And the house was perfect. And I remember before we went to go anywhere to go look at a house, I held Dixie's hands and I said, let's pray for a home, baby, because we're very faithful. And I love Jesus Christ, and I don't deny. And we're a very faithful family, and so we prayed every day, obviously. And I held Dixie's hand this one day, and I said, okay, baby, let's pray for what we need. Let's ask directly. I said, we need a house that's big enough for us. And Dixie said, with a room way upstairs just for me. A room upstairs. And Dixie was 7. Yeah. And so Mike and I, the girls were being watched that day, and we went looking. And Mike says, well, let's pull off in Maxwell just for laughs and giggles. And we pulled off, and sure enough, there was this blue house that had this written for sale by owner sign, right? So we're checking this house out. It's all abandoned and boarded up, and it had been that way for a while, apparently. Sorry for the wind. I hope you can hear me. That's a coronal mass ejection coming in, solar flares and stuff, which is intense, and the energies are immense. And I feel so blessed to tell my truth. Thank you. This is my 3rd take on this, if you can believe it. Anyway, so we called the owners of the home, and it was Loretta and Kathy Quintana. And they said, yeah, the house has been empty for 10 years. Ever since they lost Antonio, it was a little boy that Leroy Quintana and Maxine adopted. And they should have adopted him because the mother decided she wanted custody so she could get money of this little 3-year-old Antonio. And she only had him for 3 weeks before her and her boyfriend beat him to death. When he would have been safe with Leroy and Maxine. Maxine was never the same again. She totally lost it. And their family was never the same again. And the court system, because they didn't adopt him, the mother, had the right to take him. And so, the house had been empty, and there was the house, the garage with an apartment, and another property. 409, 407, and 411 Tanaha Avenue in Maxwell, New Mexico. And Leroy used to be the mayor of the city and the principal of the school. And when we got the house, I found this paddle. It was about 1.5 inches thick and about, 18 inches long or something, this paddle, wooden paddle. And he had a bunch of signatures on it. And so I called Leroy and I said, hey, what's with this paddle? And he said, well, when I was the principal, anybody who had to get a smack on the hiney had to sign their name on it. So there were names all over it. And he said, there were kids that called me and thanked me later for doing that because it really waked him up. And it woke him up and shook him up enough where, Leroy Quintana just gave him a little disciplinary love. Not leaving bruises or nothing. Swats on the hiney. I said, hey, I'm going to use that. I'm going to try that, because the girls were really rebellious, and I understand Mike was undermining me, and I would tell the girls to do something, and he'd say, no, she's just being mean, right? And so after we moved to Maxwell, I didn't have as many resources with the children's workshop and stuff, and the girls were getting their education there at Maxwell Elementary, and Carrie Ann was getting special education, and I was homeschooling too. Teaching him at home. I got Dixie science kits so she could learn clean energy technologies because she is a whiz. She was great at it, really smart. And the school was helping me with Carrie Annie and Dixie. Started going to school. And let me walk a little bit. And it was really interesting. I was getting help with the school. They were helping me. And I'm going to lean on this pole right here with my coffee. Yeah. It's a long story. I'm sorry if you're still listening. Forgive me, I'm just telling my truth. So, we were living in Maxwell, and we had to do all the plumbing because it was galvanized pipes. It was a huge job to do, really. And I had to barbecue outside all summer because I had no gas. And it was expensive, you know. It took every dime we had. We didn't have much. And we sold what we had in Raton with that. We started again in Maxwell at 409 Tenaya Avenue, as I said. And we worked hard to move, and we worked endlessly to get that house going. The plumbing and the gas and everything. I'll never forget, with 2 toddlers. That was crazy. And Lucas was there, but then he wasn't, really. And we were there, you know, and living. That was 2015. And we were waiting for Michael Rubin to get his settlement from the VA. And he had back pay coming for an accident he had when he was in the military. He jumped off a tower in training for 82nd Airborne, and he hurt his left shoulder. And he had a injury he sustained. And then he said he was raped in the military, and he had a case, I guess, on that too. And he was in the middle of this case with the VA. So we're waiting for that case to settle, and we had been on that case for years already. I forget how many, but at least, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. It was a long time. And, you know, we were going to move and get a place where Mike could get the help he needed for his severe CPTSD and his abuse of me. And apparently he was telling them I was abusing him. He was telling, you know, them a bunch of stuff about me. And it was the weirdest thing, because they would meet me and they'd say, gosh, you're nothing like your husband describes you. You're really nice. You wouldn't know that. No, you wouldn't know that hearing it from Mike Ledoux, though. He was saying totally opposite. It was the weirdest thing. And I would take him to his appointments in Albuquerque, and I would always go with him. He couldn't travel alone, really. And we would see his family on occasion. His mom would come up. That was in Raton, but that was before 2015. And in 2013, Mike took off for a weekend or something with Dominic Demchuk. And he left me at home alone. It was 2012. Yeah, because Tina died in January of 2013. And Dom and Mike were out for this weekend, and my dog is having puppies, and I'm home alone with 2 babies and a dog that's having puppies and his mother with Alzheimer's, right? And Mike wouldn't come home. I kept calling him. I said, stop dicking around with Dom and come home. I need you. And what he was doing was he was looking at properties and house behind my back with Dom. And I'm on the phone trying to get him to come home and help me with his mom, 2 babies, and a dog having puppies. And I said, you get home immediately. You've been gone all weekend with Dominic doing who knows what, and I need you here with your family. And so he's finally, and I said, you need to come here now and take care of your mommy. Well, as soon as I got off the phone with him, it was the weirdest thing. She called me evil. And I'm looking at Tina and I'm going, wait a minute, lady. I said, you're calling me evil in my own home when I'm taking care of you with Alzheimer's, you know, while your son is out parading around with Dominic and not taking care of his responsibilities here. No accountability. And I said, you're the one who created this monster. Really? I said, you de-virginized, as far as Mike told me, all your sons, and you were sexually perverted, lady. That's what Mike told me. And she froze immediately, and I started telling truth on her, and oh gosh, did I let her have it. I gave her the truth, and I said, look, if anybody's evil here, it's you, lady, because I'm having to live with what you created here. Totally. And that was really hard, but boy, I couldn't hold it no more. After everything I did for the family, taking mom to the doctors and being there for events and everything. So, yeah, I said, you need, I called Mike and I said, your mom's going to be waiting for you outside. You get home right away and take her home. Her and I just had it out. So he's on his way home and Tina's outside, and I gathered all her little things, and she went over to the neighbors, and I thought, you know, I don't know how long he's going to be, so I better take her to Denny's. And I went out to get her to take her to Denny's, and she wouldn't go with me. And so I'm like, okay, you stay with the neighbors, that's fine. I never spoke to her again after that, and she died in 2013. I went to go say goodbye and pay my respects and pray for her and leave a little prayer book. And the family said I never even showed up to say goodbye to her. And I said, look for the little prayer book under her, the little cross under her prayer book. And now tell me I wasn't there. But of course I didn't get an apology for that, really. Not at all. And it took Tina a long time to die, 3 weeks. And it was awful. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But anyway, she passed away in January of 2013. And then, you know, catch back up to moving to Maxwell in 2015 and, you know, coming up to that time. And Dixie's going to school at 7. She was in 1st grade. And Dixie comes home one day and she says, hey, Mommy, my teacher taught me that it's okay for a man to marry a man. And I'm like, what, young lady? Well, it's okay for a man to marry a man. My teacher told me. And I said, oh my gosh, my daughter's only in 1st grade. And I have to teach her about the laws of God and the laws of nature. And she wasn't ready for that. I wish they would have told me they were teaching them that. It was really disturbing. And right about the time that Dixie was 7 or 8, there was a time where a friend of Mike's was coming over to visit. I was busy cleaning the house, and Ronnie McDowell came over to see Mike. And so I answered the door and I went to go get Mike, and he was in bed with the girls. And there was Carrie Ann on the iPad, and then there were some pillows between Carrie Ann and Dixie, and then there was Dixie, and then there was Mike. And it looked kind of weird, but I opened the door and said, hey, Ronnie's here. And Mike covered himself, but had Dixie in his left arm. And I'm like, what am I seeing here? And it took me aback, and Mike was doing something under the blankets, like, I guess his pants. And I'm like, and I said, Ronnie's outside. We'll deal with this right after what I just saw. I don't like what I just saw. And Mike went to go talk with Ronnie, and Ronnie left, and I was livid. I'm like, I know what I just saw. Was that what I just think I saw? And he's like, no, nothing was happening at all. No, nothing. Wow. Yeah, I believe that, big ball, right? Oh. And I called Lucas down. I called my brother David. I called my friend April. I said, what do I do here? I didn't see him, you know, doing it, you know, sticking her or having sex with her, but I saw her snuggled all up in his chest, and a barrier between Carrie Ann and her, and him all of a sudden covering and like zippering underneath the blankets. But I couldn't prove anything. You know, if I had seen him doing her or him or her down, I would have, you know, yeah, but I didn't see enough to really say nothing. Rather than bringing down CYFD and putting the whole family under investigation. Wowee. Yeah, so I thought, okay, I'll get to the truth of this. And Luke said, Mike saying, there's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. You didn't see nothing. You saw nothing, see nothing, say nothing. And I didn't have enough to go on right then. But I know something happened. And, wow, that moon is beautiful. It really is. That is just incredible pink flower moon. Can't get away from it. So, so I let that go. And Mike was accusing me, still abusing me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, attacking me. And he was only getting worse with his CPTSD on me. I couldn't go a day without an accusation of something. And he would let the girls run amok and not discipline them at all. They would just run amok around the house, and he would give them Dr. Peppers and candy. I'm like, don't really, you're giving too much. Here's fruit. I would make the girls fresh fruit salad, and I fed them 3 squares a day, but he's giving them all this junk food and taking them to the store and let them get whatever. And don't listen to her. She's just your mother. Yeah. And he was always undermining me behind my back with my daughters and lying about me and let them do whatever they want and make me out to be the bad guy, right? Yeah. So, life went on. Dixie was 8, 9, 10. We had our Christmases and our birthdays, and we were doing okay, and the kids were going to school. We still had a lot of behavior problems, and getting them to do anything was a chore. So I would threaten them with the paddle, and I'd say, hey, I'm a 3-strike woman, okay? I said, I'll ask you nicely and politely once to clean your room. And, I'll come back in an hour and see how you're doing. I go back in an hour and the room's still not clean and say, hey, guys, I asked you nicely and politely an hour ago to clean your room and I don't see nothing. Now I'm telling you to clean your room immediately, and I would hold the paddle. I'd say, don't take me to 3. You take me to 3, I'm going to give you 3 swats on the hiney. Not upside the head or upside the stomach or anything. On the hiney. 3 swats. Yeah. For, it was disciplinary. It wasn't abuse. Like Leroy Quintana with the high school. Or with the school. And, yeah, so I had that paddle and I had to threaten a lot. But in the 3 years I was there, they got 3 spankings, 1 spanking a year, 3 spankings on the butt. Real abuse, really. And I was homeschooling them then through the Seton Home Study Program. And this was 2016, 17, 18, in that time frame. See, we're getting there, honey. Yeah, we're almost to 2020. And I'm not covering a lot. There's a lot of details I'm leaving out. I'm just getting to the skippy, totally. Because I'm trying to get these chapters out of me so I can close out this story my way and get the truth out finally. So anyway, the girls were going, they were doing good, and it was really hard for me to homeschool them. I had a classroom set up for them, and we had it all set up. It was really cool. They were getting a really good education through the Seton Home Study Program. I paid like $100 a month to have them in school. And in 2017, I broke my right foot over this thing at the post office at Maxwell. This lump in the pavement shouldn't have even been there, and I broke my foot getting into my car. And then that made it more difficult for me to do things around the house, obviously, and take care of the girls. And Mike wasn't much of a help. He was always playing rocksmith and rocking in his chair. Really not doing a lot of anything, really. And putting it mostly on me. To put a point on it, actually. And always accusing me, always insinuating. Now, there was a time that I left him and went to Esperanza Shelter with Carrie Ann. But again, he convinced me to come home and he wouldn't do it again. And I went back. God help me. I kept believing him, right? So anyway, in 2018, he was trying to settle his case with the VA. And I'm trying to manage the house and the girls and everything. And I have a video on Sweet Victory channel from that time, from May of 2018. And we went down to the VA in Albuquerque for some kind of evaluation they were going to give him for his case, right? And that was the video of that day. And I'm trying to get the girls to do their schoolwork. And I say, hey, you get your schoolwork done in the car so we can go to McDonald's when Dad goes to his appointment in Albuquerque. And they would not do their schoolwork. And he was going, just wait until we get down there. And then you can deal with them in the car when I park you in the shade and make them do their work. And I said, no, Mike, we have a 4-hour drive. We can get this done right now while we're driving. And the girls are all giving me a hard time. And he's like, man, she's just, almost like, don't listen to her. She's, Dixie, I know you can do it. You know, and just undermining me. And I'm like, this is absurd. I shouldn't, you know. And like it was too much to ask, right? Right. Anyway, so we get to his appointment at the VA in Albuquerque. And I took the girls to McDonald's anyway, even though they didn't do their schoolwork that day. And it's a little hard to take in, forgive me. I'm almost up to an hour, but I'm up to 2018. And after that appointment at the hotel, Mike was not the same. He brought up this thing about him being raped in the military and everything, and that he was just not the same when he came from that evaluation in May. I don't know, he wouldn't even tell me, but he was not the same. He was like ballistic in May. And then he really went off the chain on me. Accusing me of everything, God help me. And then in July 20th, 2018 exactly, I went to my friend Valerie in Trinidad. She owned the pawn shop up there. Valerie Gagelman is her name. And I went up there for the weekend because I had to get away from Michael Rubin. And we went, you know, to a movie, and then she took me up to her pawn shop. She said she had some stuff she had to take care of after hours, right? And as I'm coming down the stairs, she turns the light off. And I was in a brace for my right foot. And so I wasn't stable, and when she hit that light, there were no railings for me to grab onto. And I fell down like 7 wicked steps. And I was about 175 pounds, 180. And I fell down those steps and fell on my left side. Broke my left foot, fractured my ankle, and tore up my whole left side. It's, you know, 175 pounds of peaches landing down 7 steps, wicked ones, and then landing. That side of the peaches aren't going to fare too well. And it, oh God, it was awful. But I didn't want to go home because of Michael Rubin. I was taking the weekend off deciding, how am I going to do this, Valerie, because I can't take this anymore. He won't stop attacking me and fighting with me, and the girls are miserable. We're all miserable because Mike won't stop it, right? Right. And so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. What am I going to do? And I felt, and oh God, that was it. I stayed for another day or so, and I knew I had to get home. And Valerie didn't make it easy for me, unfortunately, because I fell in her pawn shop, right? And she said she didn't have insurance or something. I didn't care. I said, just get me to the hospital. And so she took me right away to the hospital there in Trinidad, and I was messed up all right. And that made my life that much harder, totally. That was in July. And then July, August, September, October, November, December, it only got worse from there, loves. Every day he was accusing me of poisoning his food or having an affair with someone, or that I was applying for things behind his back, or that I was, plotting stuff behind his back. Every day, 2-3 times a day, I was being just hounded by him. And there was this one time, right about that time, where I had went to Dixie. I said, Dixie, you really need to clean your room up, please. I'm asking you politely, please clean your room. And I came back an hour later and nothing done. I said, Dixie, I'm telling you, now clean your room. It's a mess in here. Just get something done. And I came back an hour later and I had to take care of Sergeant and Brisky outside, our dogs. And she said, can I go outside? And I said, Dixie, you haven't even cleaned your room yet. So clean your room and then you can go outside. You're lucky I'm not getting the paddle on you. But no, you're not going outside. I got to go take care of the dogs. Okay? So I go and take care of Sergeant and Brisky. And I come back in and I'm on the other side of the wall and I hear Dixie talking to Mike. And Dixie's going, well, she won't let me go outside and she's being mean to me and she's making me clean my room and she's being mean. She won't let me play. And Mike says to her, don't listen to her. She's just a bitch. And I'm standing on the other side of the wall and I come walking around. I said, really? Really? Wow. Wait. I said, well, Dixie, from now on you can call me she. Okay? And I was finding out bits and pieces and putting the puzzle pieces together to what was really going through my kids' heads and how he was truly undermining me with them. Oh, God. And making me out to be the demon, right? When I was just being a mom wanting her kids to clean their room. Sorry, that's asking too much, right? Yeah. And that was it right there. And I sold my last annuity. I had an annuity from a long-term disability, and I sold it for like $24,000 or something. Mike couldn't wait because he's still waiting for his VA settlement, right? And he kept telling me the money's coming, the money's coming, we're going to settle, the money's coming, right? And I kept waiting. And I even bought a different car, a 2017 RAV4, at a tune of like $700 a month when I only get $1,500 a month. And Mike said, oh, don't worry, you only got to make one payment and my VA check will pay it off immediately. Let's get this car for you. Wow, what a mistake. And so in that time, after I got my check, Dixie got a hold of my credit cards and charged like $15,000 on my credit cards. And I'm looking at my account and most of my money's gone. And she's ordering all this stuff online. She was 9. And I had to call all these companies and I only got like half my money back. She was ordering Minecraft credits and beds and everything. I don't know how she figured it out and if Mike showed her how to do it. But boy, they ripped me off every cent of the last thing I had as a resource. And that was awful. But hey, I came up with some money to help my family. Michael was still waiting for his VA. And he said, because we were on the splits then, he said, okay, when I get my VA, I'll give you half the money and you can start your life over again and we'll separate. Okay, if that's the case, if we're going to break. Because my plan was to get his back pay, move to San Marcos, Texas, so Mike would have the benefit of the VA in San Antonio and Austin, so he could get the help he needed. And we could mend our family, because there was a lot of, I wanted healing for us, not separation. But he had other plans. So I'm glad this chapter's almost done. And we're almost to 2020, whatever. Up to the time I left. And so by December, by Carrie Ann's birthday, we had a great princess birthday party for her. And we had a great time in Raton, getting our Christmas tree and everything, our Christmas tree. And we did a great thing for Carrie Ann's birthday. And that was on the 1st. Now, I left right after that because Mike wouldn't stop, and it got worse. And Dixie's birthday was on the 12th of December. So I left and went to Santa Fe and got away. I took his SRT to Santa Fe, and I really wanted to go to the PCH in California and just drive away. But I didn't, you see. I went back for my Dixie's 10th birthday, and I have a video of that on Victory the Sweet channel. You can go and check it out. And I was a good mommy, and we had a great birthday for Dixie that year. And I was teaching her how she got to light her first match, because I always teach safety first, and of course I wanted to make sure she knew what she was doing, you know, to strike a match even. And so she got to, you know, light her first match with safety first always. And then I left again right after Dixie's birthday because Mike wouldn't stop it again. And I went to Taos to go see his cousin Gloria Velasquez. And unfortunately for me, I was honest with her because I was going to spend the night. It was just about Christmas time, and I told her I had AIDS and HIV, and she threw a conniption. Because remember, Mike wouldn't let me tell his family. But I was going to stay at her house and use her facilities, so I thought it was not but right for me to tell her, hey, you know, I have AIDS, HIV. And she kicked me out right then. And I had a friend that I went to, but damage was already done. And she told everyone in Taos I had AIDS and HIV, and I told her that in confidence. So I went back home for Christmas. It was Christmas Eve, 2018. And I made everybody Christmas dinner, and of course I had gifts for everybody, including Michael Rubin. He had celebrated his birthday on the 21st. And I wasn't there that day, because I didn't want to be. I couldn't take it anymore, his abuse of me. And I went for Christmas, and I cooked us a beautiful Cornish game hen Christmas dinner. And we had a good time, and kids got to open a present, gift or two. And then the next day, Mike started again on me. Oh gosh, and with a vengeance. And this time it was divorce and nothing different. And I said, I just want your attorney's name so I can talk to your attorney so we can settle this out while you wait for your money. And he wouldn't give me anybody's name and nothing in writing. So I knew, good God, you're seeing the truth of it. He ain't gonna give you nothing, honey. And he didn't. But a hard time. Let me get a zoom out of that. Yeah, I'm gonna zoom out. There we go. Oh, beautiful. And so I had a video with the girls there on 12/27/18. And I said, hey, this can't go any further, babies. I can't take your dad accusing me every single day. And I sat and I had a 3-minute conversation with my daughters about what was going on. Like a good mom. And Mike was behind me where I couldn't see, and he was egging them on, okay? Like they weren't, what's the word for it? Where they were practiced, you know, like he practiced with them that this was going to happen. Because, you know, Dixie didn't want us to break up as a family. She wanted us to stay together, but I made it clear I could not go like this any further. And Carrie Ann said, you try to take me away from my daddy and I'll bite you like a venomous snake. Anybody tries to take me away from my daddy, I'll bite you like a venomous snake. And so, no, she wasn't pre-trained to say that, obviously. And Mike's in the back going, you can see your mom anytime. You could talk to her every day. And I just wanted to go to Santa Fe and get my life together. Or Espanola. So I went to the shelter the next day on the 27th of December. And I said, that's it for me. I can't do this. VA back pay or no pay. I got to get away. And I got to, because he's not going to help me. And that was clear. I saw the truth with absolute clarity. And so I left the next day. And I went to the shelter, the Espanola Crisis Center, the women's shelter in Espanola. The director's name is Mr. Romero. And I was in awful shape. And I was just there for a couple days, and I went to go see my therapist, Heather, at Southwest Care Center in Santa Fe. And she knew the circumstances were not good for me. And she was concerned for my kids, of course, as I was too, for sure. And so she didn't tell me, but I had a suspicion she was going to call CYFD. So I called Mike right away after that appointment on a Friday. And I said, hey, I just got a red flag that the CYFD might come knocking on your door, so you better have the house clean and the kids taken care of, like a good soldier. And he said, well, aren't you going to come and help me? I said, Mike, I can't stand to be around you for 5 minutes without you accusing me and brutalizing me. No, I said, you're military, get the girls off their tablets and get them cleaning. Get the house ready. And he said, well, what should I do if they come? I said, you got the house all together, don't worry about it. Invite them in, offer them refreshments, and see what you can do for them. You know, if they question the education, well, I forgot to do my paperwork with, you know, the homeschoolers at the school district. That would have been the only issue. Okay? And I said, you just be ready. I'm telling you, give me the heads up. Follow orders directly. And then, you know, so Friday went by, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, ring, ring, ring. Hey, the state police are here. Honey, what do? I said, well, did you clean the house, dude? And he's like, I failed you. I failed. No, the house isn't clean. And I'm like, oh my God, I'll be right there. And I remember speaking to April Jolly for the first time on the phone, and there were a lot of dead spots in New Mexico then. And I couldn't get through, and it took 3.5 hours to get home. And by the time I got there, all I had time to do was to throw some clothes in a suitcase. It was winter, and I'm getting everything together for my daughters because they were taking them. The way he had the house, I couldn't even look at the state police in the eye. And I'm like, oh my God, because it was 5 days worse and he didn't do anything. And then apparently he was blaming me for leaving him that way. And I didn't. Oh God. And they were just, there was April Jolly. I'm trying to explain to her and she wouldn't listen to me. And I said goodbye to the girls after I just got what clothes I could together, winter clothes so they could be warm. And I told Dixie, I held on to her and I said, may the angels bless you and keep you. May angels be with you. And all I could do was help them get in the van and watch them drive away, man. And I went back into the house and I stayed that one night and I was trying to clean up, going, God, we got to get the kids back, Mike. We got to get the kids back. And I lasted that one night. And by the next morning, he was all over me. Oh God, it was awful. And I said, that's it. Whatever happens from here is on you, buddy. And I went back down to the shelter in Espanola. And we had our first hearing for CYFD right there. I think it was January. And we're sitting in court and Mike says to me, oh, hey, by the way, I had to get a restraining order on you. April Jolly had said I need to get a restraining order on you so I could get the girls back faster. But I had to exaggerate so I could get the girls back faster. And I'm looking at him in court for CYFT. I'm going, what? What's a DV? Domestic violence order. You know, but April Jolly told me that that's the way it had to be. Really? What? He said, you'll find out later. You know, you'll find out. And the hearing is just starting. And I'm like looking at him, what? And looking at the judge going, what? He talk about a side swipe, right? And I'm already at an hour. And we're getting there. We're already at 2019, which is great. We're making progress. I only got 6 years to go. 7. Anyway, and we're going to wrap this up because it does get better. And birds of a feather, if you're still listening by now, bless your ever-living heart and soul for listening. And yeah, the next thing I knew, I got this DV order at the shelter. And they said, well, because you have a DV order, you got to get out of the shelter. You got 3 days to find a place. And I had a whole $100. But by the grace of God, I did find one. Yeah, by the grace of the Holy Spirit, that's a whole nother miracle. But I did find a place, and yeah, I settled in there for January, February, March, and then all the way today, April Fool's Day in 2019. And at that time, I got off all of the pharmaceuticals that they had me on. They had me on oxycodone, lorazepam, cyclobenzaprine, bupressurine, antidepressant. They had me on oxygen, 2%, 24/7, and a CPAP machine. What medication, and all my AIDS and HIV medicine too. And that's another story for the next chapter, because I dumped all that stuff too. And did the best thing I could do for me, even though they said I was crazy. Love you, lovelies.